Sorry that my eyes is like this. I've really been crying, not because of anything negative, just because of I just had to feel like the love of God in my life and how it has been for me. Like if you really understand how the crucifixion happened, you would cry too. So that's just it. Anyway, that's by the way. Then I was talking about the melanin pigments in the hair. And I told you guys in my previous video that there are two major types of melanin pigments that is in the hair, which is the eumelanin and the pheomelanin. If I tell you that I discovered one extra melanin pigment that is very rare, you won't believe me, honestly. That's why I told you that the hair texture and the hair industry is very, very vast. And you don't just use because of one person's result to judge the entire industry. And I told you guys that the melanin is what determines if the hair can be black or brown. And the pheomelanin is what determines if the hair is yellow or red. And this other pigment, which is the trichosidarian, this particular pigment is rare and can actually be found in red hairs. So you know that this red hair alone is rare, and rarely will you find it in the Asian side of the country or even in the Middle East like that. You can actually find it more common in the Europe. That is why people don't really talk about it like that, because if it is around the European side that you can actually get these blonde units and also the red hair, because red hair is too, like if you even see it or you even see someone that is going to buy it or sell or they're going to sell it, it's really rare. You get that? Those are one of the rarest hair texture or the rarest hair color that you can see in the market. That is just it. So trichosidarian is one of the hair pigments, but it's not commonly found in all hairs, and it's not commonly found in some hairs like black hairs. Black hairs and brown hairs. It's not commonly found. It's majorly found in red hairs. It's recognized in red hairs. So even if it's in black hairs or brown hair, it's close to nothing. Like it's close to not even being there. That is just how it is. That's how the explanation is. So every pigment, like the pheomelanin and the eumelanin, can be found in every hair. It's just that you will know the ratio of each pigment in the hair. You might see more of a pheomelanin or more of an eumelanin, which is the one that can make the hair if it's black or brown, and pheomelanin is what can determine the hair is red or yellow. So if there is more of the pheomelanin, there's every tendency that your hair will give you a red or a yellow hair. And if your hair contains the eumelanin, there's every tendency that your hair might be black or dark brown. So in terms of bleaching, when you bleach your hair, if you have more of the eumelanin, because what bleach does not actually wash out the whole pigment in the hair. What it does is it breaks it down. You understand? It breaks down the pigment. So because in my previous video I told you guys about hair structure. So you're actually getting close to talking about that hair structure. But let me just tell you guys how bleaching is done. When bleaching or when bleach is applied, bleach don't just wash out all the melanin pigments in the hair. What it does, it breaks it down. So if you have more of the eumelanin in your hair and the bleach comes to break it down, there's a tendency that it cannot lift as easy as a hair that has less eumelanin. You get that now? That is why you see that some people might actually bleach their hair 2 to 3 times before it actually gets to blonde. You get that? Because they had to keep on applying bleach. And the more you apply bleach, the more there's every tendency that your hair might actually damage in the process. You get that now? That's why people add bleach 3 to 4 times before it actually gets to light color. You get that? Because you are breaking down the eumelanin in the hair. You get that now? So if you have less of the eumelanin, your hair can actually like bleach faster to light color. You get to yellow. You get that? So when you say a strand is thick, it can also be the amount of pigment that is in the hair, not just in the cortex. You get that? Because when there is more pigment in the hair, the slower it will be when bleaching. You get that now? Because when more pigments, more resistance, big cortex, that is what makes a thick strands. Not just about how the body is. You get that? Because these two can also determine if your hair can curl or not. You get that? I told you guys in my previous video, so let me explain it now. So I told you guys about two black hairs. When you get two black hairs, you can actually see that the hair might actually be black. It will look black and look the same. But when you start bleaching it, that's why you see that, okay, that this one has more dark or more eumelanin than this one. You get that? So the more pigment in the hair, the more the cortex is denser, or the more the cortex is dense. Then the less pigment in the hair, the less likely that the cortex will be dense. You understand? The cortex will be flexible and very easy to coil and hold coils. Because when there's more pigment, the cortex has to be dense. You get that? So that it can accommodate the amount of pigments that is in the hair. That is why you can actually bleach some hairs, and some hairs cannot lift past brown. You get that? Some hairs cannot even lift past orange color. You get that? Not because of the hair is bad, but because of the amount of pigments that is in the hair. So the more you bleach the hair, the more the hair can actually damage because of the amount of pigment that is soaked inside the hair cortex. You get? So with that alone, it's not just about the hair, the strand thickness right now. The strand thickness can also contribute to how a hair can behave. But that alone does not guarantee that the hair is going to move a certain way. You get that now? That's I'm actually making this video so that people will not want to come and say, okay, this particular person said something like this, so why is the hair behaving this way? That is to tell you that there are hairs that can actually be medium or coarse and still not behave the same way another medium can actually behave. You get that? That is because of the strand structure, how dense the cortex is. When the cortex is denser, or the cortex is dense, it means that it is carrying more pigments in the hair, that it will not allow it to behave a way that another medium hair can actually behave. That is just the explanation of it. I don't know if you get it. So I wrote here for medium. If you have like medium A and medium B, I actually stated it in a form of table, like a diagram, so that you guys can actually understand it. So I wrote here, dense cortex, high pigment, tight internal storage for medium A. Then for medium B, lighter cortex, less pigment, more flexible inside, meaning that this particular one can hold coils. The medium B can hold coils because of it has less pigments, lighter cortex, and is flexible inside. It has like more flexible structure than that of the dense cortex. You get that? Than that of medium A. You get that now? So medium A now, due to how heavy the inside structure is now, it will drop coils and it will resist heat than medium B. Do you get it now? So for coarse, I also stated, for coarse strands, thick, very dense pigment, stiff internal storage. Then for coarse B, more flexible, thick, more flexible, pigment is present but not overpacked. That's what I wrote about cortex and coarse B. Then inside this coarse A now, it struggles to hold coils, needs more heat, feels strong but stubborn. Then coarse B can hold coils well, keep shape longer, style beautifully. You get that? So it means that this coarse B now, due to the fact that it has more light cortex, you get, it can actually hold coils than the coarse A. You get that? It can hold coils more than the cortex A because of it has less pigments, but the cortex A has more pigments, which the strand thickness already is thick. You get that now? So the strand thickness alone does not determine how a hair will behave. It's actually how the inside is that will tell you if the hair can behave a certain way. But that actually does not mean that the hair is bad. It's far from it. It's actually how it is naturally. So that's why you see a vendor now, you get a raw hair and it's a medium strands, and that vendor will get a raw hair and it's a medium strands. This particular vendor will be complaining that her hair drops quickly, and this one will be complaining that, oh, we saying that my own is flexible, or my own can hold coils, and the coils you can also straighten it, you can also coil it, you can also do body wave movement, and everything is going to be intact. If you want to straighten it back, it will straighten it back. It holds coil perfectly well. But another vendor will say, oh, this my own drops coils quickly, and you'll be trying to compare your own hair with this one. I'm thinking that, oh, your supplier sold you a bad hair, without you knowing that that is actually how that particular hair is naturally. So this is why most vendors have been dragged wrongly and falsely, because they think that everything is always from the supplier, but it's actually because the supplier didn't give them much education, or they didn't even know that that is how the hair works. You know, some of them are very, very observant. They tell you, okay, this particular hair behaves this way. You get that? Some people that have tried to test it out and see how it works. So you as a hair vendor too should also like maybe try to see how the hair works. Not necessarily that, okay, the hair was spoiled in the factory and they sent you a bad hair. That is just how their own region's hair is. And mind you that in this Vietnam, I'm just using Vietnam because that's where most people are buying their hair from. Vietnam have regions. You get that? They have regions already. They have east, west, north, and south. So you cannot compare maybe an east with a west. You get that? You cannot even compare a west with a south. You get that? They might actually have different structure because of the climate that they have there, or the genetic influence or difference that they have. And Hausa can never be a Yoruba. A Yoruba can never be an Igbo. You get that now? That is just the simplest way to explain it. And this also applies to baby teen hairs and fine hairs, because I told you guys in my previous video that baby teen hairs are fragile. That's actually because of how common that particular strand is, that fragile strands. You get the baby teen hair that is popular in the market is actually the ones that are flexible. You get, they have like weak internal storage, but they have a baby teen hair that can actually hold coils too. You get, they have strong internal storage structure, strong internal structure. That same goes to fine hair. So that is how the hair works. So even if you see 18 strands, there's no possibility that the internal structure of that particular hair is different from another one. You get that now? So you know, so that, okay, because of this is medium strands, that it's supposed to behave this way. That's not a way to put it. Average can actually, the majority of the hairs can actually behave that way, but that does not mean that another majority too, that the hairs can actually behave a different way. You get that? That's why some hairs that people call bad hairs actually not bad hairs, because that hair, they called it bad because it was not behaving like the way the ones that they know is behaving. That's why they're not calling it bad hair. But if they realize that hairs can actually behave differently, not because of actually that it's black, the hair is black, they will not think that that is how every hair is supposed to behave, every black hair or every hair that they get in that particular region is supposed to behave. That's not true. It's not 100% true. Hair can behave differently. You see a Nigerian girl, an Igbo girl, you see that their hair, even their 4A, 4B, and 4C hair is not the same. There are ones that have 4C, there are ones that have 4B. If you look closely, you see that the hairs don't look equal. Even if it has the same strand thickness, but it does not behave the same way. That is how it is in the hair industry. Because I know that not everybody or educates people about this particular topic. That's why there's a lot of people that are not proud of their vendor, or are looking for spending millions to buy another vendor and buy another supplier's contacts, just because of they have a particular hair that is moving a certain way without you knowing that your own vendor is actually selling a particular hair that is moving in its own natural way. But because you are seeing that this person's own is looking like this, the person will tell you, oh, this one is fake. This is how it's supposed to, this is how raw hair is supposed to be. This one is not the way how raw hair. That is a complete lie. Raw hair or not, hair is not supposed to behave the same way. If not, everybody's supposed to have the same shape. That is why you see people have different shape, different figures. You get that? So it applies to hairs too. It will never be the same.